Good evening. Welcome, everyone, to day 14 of our 15-day meditation challenge. What a journey it's been through huge amounts of knowledge, information coming at you, and I realize that it's been thick and fast. But I wanted to give you some ideas and appreciation of what is possible. Now, on this 14th day, I thought I'd just give you some examples of questions that might arise and how one might be able to answer them. This has typically not been an interactive session. So I want to, before we go into our 14th meditation, I want to eradicate some of the issues that might arise, some of the doubts that stops you from assimilating this knowledge. And one of the first that come to mind is the thought that if we are all one, as the Shastra says, then why don't I know your thoughts? Very valid question. Why don't I know your thoughts? And to explain this, the Vedas give a very practical example, as they do many, many examples, or prakriyas as they're called, to try and make us understand what is going on. And in this example, it asks us to consider a series of earthen pots, some large, some small, some thin, some fat. They represent us. The pots are our physical bodies. And in those pots are water, and that water represents our subtle body. So gross body and then subtle body. Up in the sky is a single sun that represents awareness or consciousness, our true selves. If you were to look into each of those pots, you'd see a reflection. Reflection of what? The one sun. Every pot would have a reflection of the sun. And that sunlight would illumine the contents of that pot, the water. The quality of that reflection depends on the quality of that water. Its turbulence, its clarity. Muddy water may not reflect as well as clear water. And certainly with great ripples and waves in it, it would not reflect the sun very well at all. So the water represents our subtle body comprising the mind, memory, intellect, and ego. And if it is settled, then the reflection of the original consciousness, the sun in the sky, creates a reflected consciousness within the pot. And it is this reflected consciousness that we call the little I. That's the I that we always thought we were, rather than the self, the single sun up in the sky, the awareness. This analogy is great because, of course, those pots in time will crack, just as our bodies crack, and the water will seep away. That is the death of the pot. And that water finds another pot, another body, in which to shine once more. So the sun is visible in every pot, yet there is only one sun. And the reflection in one pot is not aware of the reflection in another pot. It's a reflected consciousness that allows us to see the content of the mind, just as that light is reflected upon the water in the individual pot. One sun, but very many different reflected consciousness. The thoughts take place in the mind, but it's the awareness that illumines them, allows them to be known. That's why I do not know your thoughts. Now, this idea of a single awareness, a single consciousness, needs to be known. And in fact, this is part of what we call seeking. We are seeking to know. But it is interesting. If, as the Shastra says, our real self is complete, eternal, infinite, then that is not something we can become. You cannot go from mortality to immortality, because immortality has no beginning. If you are immortal, then you must be immortal now, while you're seeking. You must be complete now, while you're seeking. So why don't we feel immortal? Why don't we feel complete? Why do we feel limited in this way? And the Shastra says, because of ignorance. Therefore, gaining this knowledge is not about acquiring anything, because you already are that. It's actually the removal of ignorance that stops you from knowing who you really are. This eradication of ignorance can only be done through knowledge. It cannot be done by action. If you don't know Chinese, no amount of exercise on the treadmill is going to teach you Chinese. Only by studying it will you come to know. So ignorance can only be eradicated through knowledge, and knowledge has to be taught. Taught by whom? Taught by a teacher. In the true sense of the Vedas, they're called gurus. Guru means remover of darkness, literally bringing on the light. If you have darkness in a room, you don't say, give me a torch and like a broom, I'll gradually shift this darkness, this grayness from this room. No, you don't do that. Flicking the light on just once gets rid of the darkness completely. In one step, the two cannot coexist. But be careful about who you treat to be a teacher. There are two types, basically. There are ones who have studied, and through a series of study has come to know the meaning of the Shastra, come to know the nature of their true self. And these are gurus. Then you have others who also know the nature of the self, but they don't know how they got there. It came to them in some strange way all of a sudden. In the presence of those people, one feels wonderful, filled with energy and light, because they know, and in their presence is as if I come to know. But they can't take you there. And the moment you leave their presence, you get back to what you were before. If you were depressed before, you return to your depression, because your ignorance has not been lifted. Let me give you an example. You meet somebody who describes a wonderful temple high up on one of the hills, one of the foothills of the Himalayas. And he describes this temple impeccably. It's beautiful. You really want to go there. And you say, oh, please, take me there. And he says, It was so far away, and we had to get up so early in the morning. I fell asleep in the taxi, and before I knew it, we were there. But that temple is lovely, it's wonderful. That person knows the temple, but doesn't know how to get there. Such a person is known as a mystic. Be wary of mystics. The person who can get you there is a taxi driver. He's been there hundreds of times. He knows the exact path and the path not to take. Those are the gurus. How do you know that you have found a guru? When you are ready to learn, the Shastra says that a teacher will appear. But you've got to be quite desperate to learn. How desperate? There's a story of a teacher and his student bathing in the Ganges. And the student says, "Oh, teacher, how desperate do I need to learn in order to know what you know?" And the teacher takes his head and pushes it under the water and keeps it there. Poor student, a young lad, is struggling under the water, struggling to breathe, and eventually the teacher pulls him up and he's gasping for air. He said, "When you want to know with the same ferocity as you wanted to breathe, that's when you realize that you are a true seeker. At that moment, a teacher will appear. It's guaranteed," is said in this way. Now, we require knowledge to be manifest in the mind because that is the only way that we can know anything in this world. Our mind, with this intellect, our subtle body, is the only way to assimilate knowledge. So, let us go into meditation. And I'll give you one or two more examples as you quieten your mind. My words have drifted by. They were in the past. You experience them in the present. You're in the present now. And when you experience them again, it'll also be in the present. The present is what the world has to give you. That's why it's called the present. Focus upon it now. Your breath. The relaxation of the body. Start the relaxation process more from the top, working your way down. Shastra says we're all one. Then how come we appear different? If consciousness and awareness were electricity, unseen but ever present, and it comes across a 5-watt bulb and a 50-watt bulb, the 50-watt bulb would be brighter. Same electricity, It just manifests in different ways. The quality of your mind in which awareness manifests is dependent on what we were given at birth. Different people, different faculties, same awareness. That same awareness as electricity going through a heater would generate heat. Going through a fan would generate rotation. But electricity is neither light, nor heat, nor rotation. And it is unaffected by what it manifests in. Our true nature is consciousness, that by which all things are known. That consciousness is not polluted or affected by what it comes to know. Just like a light is unaffected by the cleanliness of the room that it illumines. Your true nature is ever pure, complete, infinite, and perfect. That consciousness that you are is all pervading, but it is not manifest everywhere. Just as the electricity runs throughout the wire, but is only manifest in the light, the heater, or the fan. It is all pervading, but only manifests in the presence of a reflecting medium. If you were to hold out a hand in front of you, what would you see? A hand, certainly, but look deeper. What you would see is the light of the room reflecting upon the hand and reaching your eyes. That allows you to see. Would there be light to the right or to the left of the hand? Yes. Is that light perceptible to you? No. The light of the room is all-pervading, but without something to reflect upon, it cannot be seen. Your true nature is like that all-pervading light. If you moved your hand to the right, did the light move with it? No. The light is always there, ready to manifest, because it is all-pervading. You are like that light. You illumine your mind and your body. Such that their thoughts and actions are known. Your true nature is unlimited, immortal, all-pervading and perfect. You just don't know it. This is ignorance. And ignorance can be eradicated with knowledge. Once you come to know, you will see perfection in everything. Because there is only one perfection. And that perfection is you. Let's bring our hands together and say, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Good. Well, lovely to spend this evening with you. Thank you for your company. Tomorrow is the last of the 15. And I look forward to you joining me again tomorrow evening. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and good night.